How to gently reach someone who keeps you at arm's length. Have you ever felt like you're trying to get close to someone, but every time you take a step forward, they take a step back? It's like they're interested, maybe even care about you, but there's an invisible wall between you. You find yourself wondering, do they really want me in their life? Or am I just imagining a connection that isn't there? Here's the hard truth. Some people are wired to pull away just when things start to feel intimate. It's not always because they don't care. Often it's because closeness feels unsafe to them. And emotional safety takes time to build. But here's what not to do. Don't chase. Don't try harder to be enough. That will only confirm their fear that closeness equals pressure. Instead, give them space without disappearing. Show up consistently, not in your words, but in your energy. Be calm, be kind, be clear about your own needs and hold your standards without turning love into a transaction. When you stop trying to convince someone to connect and instead create an environment where connection can breathe, that's when they start to feel safe enough to lean in. Remember, love isn't about pulling someone toward you. It's about walking alongside someone who's choosing day by day to meet you in the middle. When someone keeps you at arm's length, the natural instinct is to try harder. You might text more, initiate more conversations, or find ways to prove you're worth their time. But this often backfires. The more you chase, the more they retreat. Not necessarily because they don't like you, but because pressure triggers their defense mechanisms. People who are emotionally avoidant or guarded need space to feel safe. That doesn't mean disappearing or playing games. It means resisting the urge to fill every silence, fix every distance, or chase every mixed signal. Creating space without disappearing is about learning how to be present without being overwhelming. It means maintaining your sense of self and not basing your actions solely on their availability. You don't need to withdraw to match their distance, but you also don't need to overextend yourself trying to bridge the gap. There's strength in being emotionally available without being emotionally overbearing. You can show care without crowding. You can remain open without begging for their attention. This approach communicates something powerful. I'm here, I care, but I'm not going to lose myself and trying to pull you closer. That message lands far more effectively than trying to prove your worth through effort. The person on the other side begins to feel a sense of freedom and safety because you're not demanding more than they're ready to give. And in that space, they might finally feel free enough to move a little closer on their own. When you're dealing with someone who tends to keep emotional distance, your consistency becomes your quiet power. It's not about showing up with grand gestures or constantly reaching out. It's about the energy you bring, steady, calm, and grounded. People who are emotionally guarded often come from experiences where emotional intensity led to disappointment, chaos, or rejection. So when they sense unpredictability or emotional volatility, even if it's driven by love or longing, it can push them further away. That's why being consistent in your energy matters more than being constant in your communication. Calm energy doesn't mean being passive. It means you're not reacting to every shift in their mood or availability. If they pull back, you don't chase. If they come closer, you don't immediately lean in with everything you've got. You stay rooted. This steadiness builds trust, even if they don't say it out loud. It shows them you're not going to explode, withdraw, or demand emotional closeness on a timeline they're not ready for. That reliability can be disarming for someone who's used to relationships being unstable or high pressure. What you're doing is modeling emotional safety. Your presence, your tone, your ability to hold space, all of that communicates you don't need to hide from me. I'm not here to overwhelm you. And that message, delivered not through words, but through energy, becomes something they can slowly begin to rely on. Over time, consistency in how you show up becomes the quiet invitation they may start to trust. Being clear about your needs in a connection where someone keeps their distance is not about issuing ultimatums or demanding change. It's about honoring yourself while creating room for honest connection. People often make the mistake of staying silent about their emotional needs out of fear. Fear of pushing the other person away, of seeming needy, or of losing the little connection they have. But unspoken needs don't disappear. They turn into resentment, self-doubt, or emotional burnout. That's why expressing what matters to you is essential, even when the other person isn't fully open yet. Communicating your needs doesn't mean giving a long speech or pouring your heart out all at once. It can be as simple as saying, I value consistency, or I feel more connected when we check in regularly. You're not demanding that they fulfill those needs. You're just being honest about what feels good and healthy for you. When done from a grounded, non-accusatory place, this kind of communication builds clarity. It removes the guesswork and passive tension from the connection. Most importantly, sharing your needs isn't about controlling the other person. It's about taking responsibility for your emotional well-being. You're letting them know where you stand without trying to manipulate where they go. If they can't meet you there, you've still protected your truth, which is far more powerful than bending yourself to fit into someone else's emotional limitations. Clarity invites compatibility. Silence invites confusion. Speaking your truth softly but clearly is how you stay rooted without reaching too far. When someone keeps emotional distance, it can be tempting to try and close the gap through effort, calling more, fixing things, showing them why they should choose you. But genuine connection can't be forced or negotiated. It has to be chosen willingly by both people. The moment you start trying to convince someone to connect, it stops being mutual. It becomes a pursuit, not a partnership. This dynamic can feel exhausting, and over time it chips away at your confidence and self-worth. Letting connection be chosen means letting go of the idea that more effort will make someone ready. It means trusting that the right person doesn't need to be chased. They just need to feel safe, seen, and accepted enough to show up. And that happens in a space where there's no pressure, no emotional tug of war, just honest presence. You can hold the door open, but you can't drag someone through it. They have to want to walk in on their own. This doesn't mean being passive or pretending you don't care. It means staying grounded in your self-respect while creating space for someone to come closer if they're ready. You show up with openness, not expectation. You invest, but you don't overextend. You listen, but you don't lose your voice. That's the difference between reaching out and chasing. When someone senses that you're not trying to control their pace or force a deeper bond, it lowers their guard. Real intimacy begins where pressure ends. At the heart of every meaningful connection is choice. The choice to show up, to be seen, and to allow someone else in. Reaching someone who keeps you at arm's length isn't about pushing harder or proving your worth. It's about showing up with quiet strength, with clarity in your needs, and with enough self-respect to give space without stepping away from your own emotional truth. When you can hold that balance between presence and patience, openness and boundaries, you create the only kind of space where real connection can grow, one that's free of pressure and full of possibility. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the right lines. You just need to stay grounded in your value and trust that the right person won't need to be chased. They'll meet you where you are because they want to, not because they were convinced. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know these topics touch on things that can be deeply personal and sometimes painful, and it means a lot that you are willing to explore them with openness and courage. I hope something in this message gives you clarity, peace, or even just one step closer to the connection you deserve. Take care of your heart. It's not something you give away. It's something you share with someone ready to hold it. Thanks again for listening. Wishing you love, patience, and the strength to choose yourself first.